Okay, so if there was a 35mm that could make me abandon my 24mm G Master, it would definitely be this one. Not because of photos like this, because let's be honest, any 35mm 1.4 is going to give me a pretty similar look to the photos you're going to see today. But it's the entire package that makes this 35mm, in my opinion, the best 35 that you can buy for Sony. You guys know that I like to cut to the chase, and most of the time I give you my conclusion at the start of the video. But if you want to know why I think the 35mm G Master is the best 35 you can get for Sony at the moment, watch through. I'm going to show you guys a bunch of photos that I took this morning with my mate Ethan, a little full drive trip we took. All of the photos were edited with my preset pack, mostly pack 2. But I did use CTM 1 as well. Generally I use CTM 3, but CTM 1 is kind of a cool, softer look. So build quality and size, it's a very similar size to the 24mm G Master, as you can see here. It is a little bit bigger, but it's pretty small, it's pretty light, and it has a very, very similar look to the 24mm. Other than the lens hood, you probably wouldn't be able to tell them apart. I'm moving this one off to the side. It's my favorite, the 24mm. So if you guys have been following my channel for a while, you would know that I shoot predominantly with the 24mm G Master. I'm a wedding photographer, and that is my main go-to lens. I shoot probably 90% of a wedding with the 24mm G Master. And then the 55mm is on my camera from all the getting ready photos, the bridal shoot. I really only use 24-85 for the ceremony and reception speeches and stuff like that. Now, when I first started shooting weddings, I was on Nikon and I switched to Sony, and that first few years of my career, I was using 35-85. With the odd exception of just trying new lenses out, but 35-85 is a really good, solid go-to that a lot of wedding photographers use. Now, I have owned the Sigma 35mm 1.2, I've owned the 35mm 1.4 Zeiss lens, I've owned the 35mm 1.8, and I've also owned the 35mm 1.4 Art series lens before they changed to the new 1.2 version. The 1.2 is amazing optically, but it has really strong vignetting, and it's really, really big and heavy. That's not going to bother a lot of people, but it is what it is. The 35mm 1.8 is a really good one. I really like that lens. It's not as optically almost perfect as these ones are, but for the size and the weight and the money, it performs really, really well. It just didn't have that kind of special flair that the 35mm 1.4 GM has. And that's something I really like about my 24mm G Master. Now, in my ranking system that I use when I'm talking about buying a lens, this takes into account price, size, optical quality, focusing, weather sealing, just everything you would think about when you're buying a lens. This is the kind of order I would put it in, and it's a little bit more difficult because of the options we have these days. But the 35mm GM would be right up the top if you can afford it. This is the one that I would buy 100%. Under that, may sound really backwards, but I would have the 35mm 1.2 Sigma and the 35mm 1.8 FE, the little cheap one, side by side. Reason being is that they're both amazing lenses for their own reasons. The Sigma is a really fantastic lens. It's optically really amazing. It creates really beautiful images, but it is much more expensive than the 1.8, and it's a lot larger. It's really quite a big lens for what you're getting. And the 35mm 1.8 is kind of the opposite end of that scale. It's still optically really, really nice. It doesn't have quite the same magic, but it's plenty sharp enough. It focuses really well, and it's just a really small, budget-friendly lens. After that, you can get into all the other ones. The 35mm 1.4 Zeiss lens has kind of been made redundant now, in my personal opinion. Not because it's a bad lens, but there's just not really any reason you would buy it. Just saving a couple of $100, you could get the Sigma one for the same price, or maybe even a little bit less, or you could just get the G Master. If you own the 35mm 1.4 Zeiss lens, I'm not saying it's a bad one. I'm just saying, if I did own it, I doubt I would be selling it to buy this. It's not going to make that much of a difference to your photography, but it's definitely a better lens. There is a whole bunch of other ones, like there's a Samyang 35mm 1.8, which is fine. There's quite a few options you can buy at this point in time, and none of them are really terrible. So lots of options for 35mm, which is good to see with Sony because it is a staple for a lot of photographers. Now, talking about focusing with this lens, it's great. There's really not much to talk about. It works perfectly with photo. It works perfectly with video. Nice smooth transitions. It's not jumpy or anything like that. It's very quiet. You can't hear it. Manual focusing is good to see. Is also really nice. Same with the 50mm 1.2. And just overall focusing is just fantastic. Talking about image quality, it's really good. So it does have a very minor amount of chromatic aberration in really extreme situations, but in everyday use you're really not going to see it like you would on other copies of 35mm lenses. But yeah, overall it's really great. Sharpness is amazing. Right open at 1.4 anywhere in the frame, it's really sharp. You'll be able to download some of these photos and see for yourself if you want to have a play with them. So yeah, image quality is just fantastic. Now I know I'm going to get asked a lot whether I'm going to be ditching my 24 and switching to the 35 1.4. At this point in time, the answer is no. I'm just going to stick with my 24 55mm combo. I do really enjoy 24, and I was discussing this with Ethan earlier this morning, and I find that 90% of the time 24 is fantastic. It's really interesting. It's a little bit wider than you would normally see, and it is a kind of standout point of difference when couples are looking at your photos. They won't know what the difference is, but they can see a difference, and I've had that comment on when people are like booking me for their weddings. But some situations I do find 35mm would be a better lens, and it's certainly easier to work with. So if you're looking at a combo and you want 35-85, this is a beast, and no doubt in my mind, if you can afford to buy this one, this is the one I would be buying. After this, honestly, my overall second pick would be the 35mm 1.8. That's my personal opinion. I think that's a really great lens as well. Possibly next season I might look at buying this lens and switching it up again, going back to 35-85 maybe. But I do like the 50mm as well. And 35 and 50 is just too close. I would never use those lenses side by side. So for me personally, it really have to be either 35-85 or 35-135, for example, or 24-50 or 55. Those for me are the ideal options for anything, events, weddings, anything like that. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate you following along, and I'll see you in the next video where I'm talking about the Sony FX3.